So my name is Pavlo Vedilin, and I'm really grateful for you for having me here. And today I wanted to tell you a story, basically a story of a project that I worked for. And so to know, to give you some context on the story, you should probably know about the department that I work in. I work for a quality management office at SoftServe. So anyone heard about SoftServe in this room? Ooh, lots of people. Anyone from SoftServe in this room? Not so much. Okay. Have anyone heard about Quality Management Office? Or rather, a testing center of excellence, as it's called? Anyone? Oh, cool. A couple of people. Last time, it was 0. Okay, so I'll give you a basic idea of what it is. This is a department that stands aside from any project whatsoever. So we have here projects and have like developers, project managers, QCs, test automation engineers. And there are we apart from that. And our function basically is to help projects in testing, QC, test automation directions. And we do competency management, we do education, we help with pre-sales, we help with recruiting and whatnot. And sometimes we help projects. So if project has any problem or has any kind of like situation, they can write us a letter and say like, guys, we need you there, please help us. And this story is basically about such a request. We had a letter from one of our projects, and this letter basically said that we need load testing. Deadline is in 2 weeks, and we have a DevOps engineer in place, but he has no idea how to do performance or load testing. We're like, okay, we're gonna help you. So what is load testing or performance testing? Anyone has an idea? Tried to do performance testing or load tests? Oh, a lot of people. Nice. So what pops up to my mind when I hear load testing? Basically, Jmeter as the first tool to do performance or load testing or any other type of such tests. You take Jmeter, you implement some script, then you ask someone for an environment, and then you basically run your script. Jmeter generates users, then you get a report from Jmeter, then you get a report from monitoring system from the environment. You combine those two reports either into the document or a PowerPoint presentation, and then you go present it and tell everybody if everything is okay or not okay and what should they do. So what's the plan? The plan basically has like a few activities, and the good thing is that Microsoft come up with guidelines on how to do performance testing. And this is a good document, so everybody who does or plans to do performance tests, I recommend this to be read, and, or at least looked at. And it has a few standard points. So first, you have to identify test environment. So as it was mentioned in the letter, we have a client, they have production, we just take production environment, clone it, and have our test environment. Identify performance acceptance criteria. We have yet again, we have a client, we go to the client and say like, what is acceptable in terms of performance for you? He answers, we get this as a acceptance criteria, or if he is not answering or says like, I don't know, we take some general things like aptX or something that we think is enough. Plan and design tests. Yet again, we go to the client, ask client what your users do, select one scenario, most important one for the client, implement it, and then we have a test. Next thing is configure test environment. There's a DevOps on the project, so this is not a problem. Implement test design. I know how Jmeter works. I know how to implement tests there, so this is not a problem too. Then execute the test. I have implemented the script. I just push the button. It executes. Simple. And analyze the results, report, and maybe retest if needed. Simple. Like nothing special about it. 2 weeks, easy. So week 1, project manager is not super happy that he needs someone from outside on his project helping him with that. And first thing that we do is we do a kickoff meeting with the project, with stakeholders on the project. So we have a call, and project manager basically says, so our client is a publishing company, and they publish not only books, but e-learnings and educational materials. So they are kind of like doing this publishing for students. Client platform consists of several servers with different roles. So they have load balancers, they have application servers, they have database, quite big infrastructure. Okay, got that. The contract that we did was a short-term DevOps contract. And the point of this contract was to write a script that will set up infrastructure. So you push the button, and then the script does all the rest. It's set up, it turns out Amazon, it sets up machines there, and after some time, you have the environment working. Okay, and the contract, this short DevOps contract, included one small point in the end. It said, like, the whole contract, it had one sentence that said, and we will check the performance of this at the end. I'm like, okay. And then project manager says, okay, that's enough for an introductory part. I'll give a word for a DevOps guy. He will help me to introduce you to the technical part. And DevOps was not that calm, and he was kind of nervous, and he started like, we use Vagrant, we use Chief, we use Punjab, we use OpenFire, we use Jabber, Xmpp, WebSockets, Bosch protocol. We have to simulate 20,000 users. Deadline is in 2 weeks, and Jmeter is not applicable here. I'm like, wait a second, what? Is this really happening? And after this meeting, I was a bit confused. I was like, so many new words, what should I do with them? Probably I should ask someone who knows things. And like, this guy, he knows a lot of stuff. Yeah, and after some time, after some Googling, I figured out that most words that DevOps used was tools that he actually used, but some of those were protocols. So I found out the specification for Xmpp protocol. The thing is, like, this performance testing was towards not the web application itself. They had like a site with e-learnings, and it showed video, it showed some materials, and it had a chat. And everybody who's looking on this page can chat inside of it. And it was based on Jabber and Xmpp protocol. So I found this specification, and it was like 200 pages long. I'm like, okay, not a problem. Then I found the specification for another protocol used there. It was a bit shorter, but yet again, another specification. And yet again, I found out the specification on how to use one protocol over the other protocol. It was kind of fun. A lot of interesting reads, you know. So after I figure out those words and what they mean and what to do with them, I was into like other question, like how come Jmeter is not applicable here? Great tool, works for HTTP, works for different protocols, even works for database testing. What happened? I started Googling and figure out that there are plugins there for Xmpp protocol, but they are old, they're not maintained, they're like 3 or 4 years old, and they're not fully supporting, like they support Xmpp, but they don't support Bosch protocol. So, sorry guy, not the case. It's not gonna work. I'm like, okay, what now? What should I do? Ask a person who knows stuff. And again, after doing some Googling, I figure out that there is another tool, which called Sunk. And at that moment, it was the only tool to do that kind of testing. As you can see from its logo, it's very modern tool. Yeah, and it works only for Linux, and its installation instructions contain word compilation. I knew that's a bad sign. Yeah, and actually it turns out like it has a lot of other things Linux way. For example, it has no user interface whatsoever. To actually run the application, you have to put this command, and command says like "zunk -f", I don't know what it means. Then a file that actually describes your scenario that you want to execute, and start. I'm like, okay. What to do next? Thank God this tool is open source, but it has like a lot of documentation. And when I say a lot, this is only a contents. Like the documentation is by this link. So I'm like, okay, I should read more. Great. So I read a lot of stuff. I Googled a lot of stuff. And I've actually compiled and installed Zunk on a virtual machine, on my machine, on Linux. Then I asked a DevOps on the project to actually provide me an environment that I can experiment. And he gave me this kind of like script that they did. And I ran the script, and the environment was locally on my machine. I'm like, okay, let's now combine those two together. And it works. I mean, the graph is okay. So users are connecting, they're doing something, they're disconnecting. Looks great. So what about like client environment? This environment in Amazon Cloud, I'm like, I'll do this in Amazon Cloud, see if it works. And not so much. The scenario, and by the way, this is this config XML file that goes into this command line and is executed by Zunk. So it says like 2,000 users, and they arrive by 200 in a minute, but the graph actually goes slightly above 250. So in it doesn't look good as on the previous slide, basically. So something is wrong. But like it's the end of the week, and then the end of the week we have a client call to let them know what we did, are we good, are we doing okay, and if like the progress basically. So we are saying we found a tool that works. We know how the test should look like. We're working on the monitoring system for the backend, for the environment. We're working to implement the actual script. But for now, it's not working on your environment. The client were like, this is not what I've expected. It will not work. And do it with JavaScript. Like, okay. Starting week 2. Project manager is not happy about this call. Client is like, what the heck are they doing there? Probably I should give it more attention. So what's wrong with client environment? Who has like any ideas what can be wrong? Because I mean, I had. Okay, so 2. Okay. Okay, I'll just yeah. Let's figure out like if I'll ask again if it was true or not. So how it works from a user standpoint. We have browser, and we have a load balancer, and behind the load balancer are application service, and there are a few of them. So browser actually sends a request to load balancer. Load balancer identifies application server to like pass the request to. Application server sends response. Load balancer sends response back and adds a cookie. And browser accepts this cookie and sends another request. And the load balancer knows that on this cookie it says the number of the application server that previous requests were. So every request from one session goes to one application server. And it works like this. So what Sunk does? Sunk sends a request. Load balancer identifies application server to send it to, sends it. Application server works with this and provides reply. Reply goes to load balancer. Load balancer sends it back, puts a cookie there, and Sunk is like, huh? What cookie? I don't know no cookies. Sends back another request without a cookie, and load balancer is like, huh? It's not that what I've expected. And it's like not working this way. So those options, was it this option? No? Like you were right or not? No? Okay. So this is a problem. After doing some more reading and more documentation, I figure out that Sunk actually supports cookies, but only in HTTP module. And then I figure out that, probably I have an idea. Since Sunk is a open source, and since I know how to compile it, I can find basically an HTTP module, figure out the place cookies are there, and then just move them to Bosch module. Sounds like a plan. The only thing that I haven't thought about was it's written in Erlang. And this beast is something different. I mean, I know and I worked with several languages, but Erlang, believe me, it's different. I've tried to learn Erlang in 2 hours, but no way, it's not working. Okay, so it seems that it's a dead end, and it's time to call for help. So SoftServe is a big company, and we have a lot of people, and a lot of bright people, developers, testers, test automation engineers, and we have like quality management office, testing center of excellence, and we have software development office. So I went to a separate office, and I said, like, hi guys, you're responsible for software developers. Do you know anyone who knows Erlang and can help me with this? They're like, okay, we're gonna find someone and get back to you. I'm like, great, thanks. This was the end of the second week, and as usual, we have a client call at the end of the week, and we're like, well, it's deadline, second week, over. But we still don't figure out how to support cookies in Sunk. And client is like, well, you're wasting my time. Do it with JavaScript. I told you the last time, do it with JavaScript. And for you to actually try to do this with JavaScript, I will give you some more time. We're like, okay. Okay. So week 3, project manager is super stressed out. Client is not happy, and client thinks that we're doing something weird and strange and not listening to his points. So it basically split it into 2 threads. Thread 1, we need someone with Erlang to modify HTTP module and to kind of fix it a bit. So we found a person who was actually willing to do this and to help us, and I'm super grateful for this person. He spent his weekend doing this, and he actually sent me the working patch the night from Sunday to Monday, and it worked as it should, which is great. I'm really happy that we have such people. And the second thread was about creating a new tool with JavaScript, which is really questionable to me. So just to not let down the client, we found a senior developer with JavaScript, and we asked him, we have a library, JavaScript library that works in browser. Maybe we can do something with that to simulate 20,000 users. He's like, okay, I'll go see what I can do with this. He came back, and his estimate was 1.5 months to 2 months. And to me, it was very optimistic. So we've explained it to the client, and the client was like, probably this timeline is not working for me. But, you told me that cookies are now working in Sunk. We're like, yeah, they work. And he's like, now, prove it to me. And I'm like, okay, let's open this specification. Let's use Wireshark. And by that time, I had Wireshark on my machine. Oh, by the way, who knows what Wireshark is? Oh, cool. So either you had problems or you're just a curious people. So for those who don't know what Wireshark is, this is basically a program that works with your network interface on the really low level. It shows the packages that goes through the network interface. So I've opened the specification, I've opened Wireshark, I had a call with the client, I've shared my desktop, and we went by specification, line by line, explaining, looking how it works, and at the end, I was very tired, but the client was like, okay, it works like it should, yes. I'm like, yes, problem solved. It works now. So what else can go wrong? Little did I know. So everything should work, and everything looks like it should work. But when we actually execute the test, on the 13th minute, it just crashes. So, users just disappear. So everything goes smooth. Users are connecting, then they are doing something, and then something happens, and all gone. And all gone on the Sunk report, all gone from monitoring of environment report, And like even server reports are saying, sorry dude, no users here. Like, okay. And this is basically me during this moment. So, does anyone has any ideas of what could have been here? Like, what's the problem? I'm not even raising my hand now. Okay, so no ideas. I had no ideas too. So what I did, I've actually called to the client and said, do you remember this scheme? Is it really working like that? Because I feel that something is wrong here, something is off. And the client was, let me think about it. Yeah, right, I forgot about it. I forgot to tell you that we have Cloudflare. I'm like, cool. Cool. Who knows what Cloudflare is and how it works? Oh, that's nice. A couple of people. For those who don't know, so without Cloudflare, you have your own site, and your site is available for visitors. Your site is available for crawlers and bots to index it for search and other purposes, and for bad people, aka hackers, aka attackers, aka someone who don't like you and want your site down. So the idea of Cloudflare is that it stands in the middle between your site and people who actually have access there. So visitors are able to go to your site, crawlers and bots are able to go to your site, but when it figures out that something bad is happening, it just cuts out. And I'm a bit curious, like why it takes 13 minutes to figure out that thousands of users from one IP address is bad. But anyways, that's the way it works. Okay, so this concluded the week 4. Project manager is a bit less stressed. Client is kind of like, probably my fault here. So, is it working? Yes, it works. Users are connecting, they're doing something, they're disconnecting. Great. And users are like same picture on the backend monitoring system, same picture on the server monitoring system. So everything is great. Back to our plan. So what we did, we've identified the test environment. We've identified performance acceptance criteria, and by the way, the performance acceptance criteria was very simple. The client wants to know whether the system is gonna handle 20,000 users, and that's it. So nothing special. Plan and design tests, really simple, like 20,000 users, nothing's failing, that's okay. Configure the test environment, DevOps job. Implement and test. Implement the test design. Well, I've spent like 3 weeks doing that. Execute the test. Yes, finally it works. Analyze the results, report, and retest. Really simple one. I thought again, and that is me, worn out of this project. So 1 month later, what was the result? Generally pessimistic test results. So everything is bad, nothing's working, everything's on fire. Client decides to completely change the architecture of the system and to use our modified tool for health checks. Thanks, he never said that we did well, but at least he's gonna use this tool. And client continued to cooperate with SoftServe because it was really close to failure. It was really close to like bad situation, I'd say. But we were, at the end of it, we were still friends, and I have a couple of more stories for this client, but not this time. So, questions. And by the way, quick note here, questions are here, and I have another slide after questions, so please ask a couple. Yeah, so. Wait, Mike. Yeah, Mike.
Hi.
Hello.
First, thank you for the entertaining and educational presentation you did. Yeah. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you solve the problem with the Cloudflare? Did you just completely remove it from the picture?
From the picture, yeah.
Okay.
We cannot ask Cloudflare to please let our test pass through you. We just removed it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other questions?
Was the production environment copied one-to-one to your test environment? Were they?
Yes, and basically it was first copied one-to-one, and then after we've got the test and we figure out that everything is bad, we've tried to experiment. So we altered the architecture, we've changed instances of for those machines, but nothing worked. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions? Okay, so yeah, please.
Thank you. What was the limitations of Jmeter to scale up to 20,000 users?
Well, first limitation was that it wasn't supporting the protocol we were using. So this means like 0. The second limitation is if we were to implement a plugin to do that, probably we should have had I don't know, a couple of dozen machines to actually generate this amount of users. But with Tonk, and it's lucky us, it's way more efficient, and it generates thousands of users for one machine. So we had just less than 10 machines generating 20,000 users.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Are you still using Tonk with different
I haven't had an opportunity to do that.
How do you feel about it?
Great tool, but you have to read a lot to start using it. Okay, so another one here. Like there, here, I don't know. There is.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you take into consideration the load balancer when you do the test?
Yeah, we had backend was monitored the whole way. So we had metrics from every machine, and we had this huge dashboard, NASA style, so with graphs and all whatnot. So yeah.
Does it make a difference if there is load balancer in the infrastructure or not?
So yes, because you can have, with load balancer, you can have several application servers, I'm sorry. Without it, only one. So it's not scalable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a time for one more? Okay. Yeah.
Hello. I wanted to ask if Sync is supporting sessions or something like that.
I'm sorry?
Sessions, HTTP sessions.
HTTP sessions, okay.
Yes.
What's with them?
Does it support how many users stay connected and how this affects the system?
So let me sum this up. So you're asking how many users for HTTP Sync supports?
Not exactly.
No?
I mean, the HTTP server responds with a session for some time. How much time have the user to be walked in?
Yes, like basically the load balancer responds with a session, and it's a cookie that says like the session ID.
Oh yeah, all right,
And how much time it takes, I don't remember.
all right,
So sorry for that.
all right. I meant other thing, but I'll check that.
No, just I mean, let's find each other.
Can you
and-
account for the performance of the application by the users that stay connected?
Yeah, but it's not the whole picture.
Yeah, just asking if Sync can account for that.
Sorry, I mean, let's like talk like
All right,
separately.
It's a bigger question. Okay.
Sorry.
It's a bigger question. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so just like approach me after this. Thanks. Okay, so lessons learned. And like we don't have time for more questions, but I'm here, so you can ask me stuff. Okay, so lessons learned. First one, don't leave simple tasks for last. If you have a contract, you don't have to have a sentence that says like, we will check this one thing at the end, and that'll be great, and everything will work. But if you, for some reason, did that, don't panic. Someone, like even if everybody around you is in panic, you shouldn't. You have to be cold-minded and like figure out what to do. Communication is a key. You cannot just sit there, do something, and talk to no one. Stakeholders are in panic, remember? And, and if you're sitting and not saying what's going on, what's happening all the time, they're panicking even more. And if you're sitting a couple of days without saying anything, they would probably think that you're drinking coffee, watching YouTube, and then we'll say to them like, no, nothing's working, no, and that's it. So keep everyone updated. If it's something critical, you should keep everyone updated, not on a daily basis, but right after you did something, and it's either successful or not. So keep everyone updated. If stuck, you don't know what to do, don't waste your time, ask for help. There are a lot of people who know stuff and not people. You can ask for help, and this is more efficient when you don't know what to do. Log your work. Again, if something goes wrong, you will be able to show what steps you did, to reflect on them, not to do this again, to show to your manager that you are not sitting eating cookies and watching YouTube. And probably you will be able to give a presentation on the conference 3 years later. That helps. And ask for detailed architecture if you're doing performance tests, like really, really detailed. Is this, like, it can waste weeks not doing so. So, thank you everybody. Thank you for having me. Have a nice evening.